Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Hope you're all in tip-top form, and today I'm going to be showing you the top 10 records that I listen to the most, and this has been inspired by a thread started at the channel, the Long Cut 1. Of course, like any top 10, it's a very subjective list, but I've tried where I can to not go for the obvious overexposed records. And first up, it's an introduction to Syd Barrett. And this is a compilation including tracks by Pink Floyd and also taken from Syd Barrett's solo records. I grew up in Cambridge in the 1970s, and you couldn't help but be aware of Pink Floyd at that time. Cambridge is quite a small city, so you didn't have to stray too far to find a connection to the band. For example, my dad actually worked with Rick Wills, who at the time was playing bass guitar with Dave Gilmour in his pre-Pink Floyd band Joker's Wild. I had a teacher at school who'd been at school with David Gilmour, and Syd Barrett and David Gilmour were both old boys or alumni of my school as well. As a lyricist, I think Syd Barrett remains unique. Next up, it's Tim Buckley and Greetings from LA. I first heard Tim Buckley on the radio in the late 70s, I guess, and I think it was his version of Fred Neil's Dolphins that I heard, and also managed to read about him in some old copies of Zigzag that I picked up, and I've still got them here actually. And this was the first one. And this was the second one. In the pre-internet days, it was pretty hard to find information on lesser known bands, so I was lucky to get hold of those articles. I picked up this album second-hand back probably in the early 80s maybe. It's his most commercial album. It's soulful R&B designed to get you moving. Some of the lyrics are even more lascivious than Mick Jagger at the height of his excess in the Rolling Stones in the early 70s, but the musicianship here is absolutely outstanding. Notably on the standout track for me, Sweet Surrender. I love the string arrangement on that, and also the funky bass of Chuck Rainey throughout the recording, and there's also some outstanding female vocals by Clyde King, Vanetta Field and Lorraine Willard. And staying with California music from the 70s, we've got Dennis Wilson and Pacific Ocean Blue. It's the fragile, cracked voice of Wilson, and also his knack for writing melancholy tunes, which keeps drawing me back to this album. If you've not heard any of the tracks before, I'd advise to check out River Song. It's got some stunning keyboards by Dennis Wilson, and also a Baptist choir that really beats you into submission. And moving on, we've got Revisited by Love. Forever Changes is their masterpiece, and I did actually get to see Arthur Lee performing Forever Changes in its entirety with string accompaniment. But this comp, I think, gives you a better representation of their early career. Standout tracks for me, I think, are My Little Red Book, which was a garage band treatment of a Burt Bacharach Hal David song. 7 and 7 Is, which sounds like punk 10 years before punk even existed, and also Alone Again or and More Again, taken from Forever Changes. And next up, I've gone with Combat Rock by The Clash. The Clash are my favourite band of all time. They had the songs, the look, the attitude. I listen to them and I feel 17 again. This isn't my favourite Clash album, but it works when I just want a quick dose of their magic. At this point in their career, despite all the infighting and top-of-headens, failing health, they still show a mastery of musical genres, and there are lyrics here of real depth, even poetic at times. The highlight of the album, and possibly my favourite Clash track of all, is Straight to Hell. On that track you've got Top-of-Headens' bossa nova beat, some fantastic violin by Time and Dog, and it's matched by a peerless vocal and truly stunning lyrics from Joe Strummer. The mournfulness of the performance on that track can even make me cry at times. And moving on, it's a double album coupling together Sweetheart to the Rodeo and the Notorious Byrd brothers, and this was the Byrds' 2 albums that they put out in 1968. Sweetheart to the Rodeo, along with Michael Nesmith's tunes with the Bunkies and also his solo recordings, were my gateway to country rock and also classic country music, and my introduction to Graham Parsons' songwriting on Hickory Wind and 100 Years From Now was just revelatory at the time. The Notorious Byrd brothers is less of a favourite of mine. I know critics rave about it, but I think it's spoilt by some very dated special effects, in particular phasing. I can remember a DJ on Radio Caroline, or it might have been Radio Mi Amigo, in the 70s, who used to add his own phasing to recordings, and I really didn't like it at all. Thankfully, their cover here of the Goffin and King song Going Back isn't ruined by any studio gimmickry. Next up, another favourite band of mine, the FLAMIN GROOVIES. FLAMIN GROOVIES Now. My favourite music magazine in the late 70s was Zigzag, and the editor at the time, Chris Needs, was a big fan of the Groovies, and it was on his recommendation that I went and investigated them. And I've actually got a copy of Zigzag here, 1978 copy with the FLAMIN GROOVIES on the cover. I suppose the album's slightly spoilt by too many covers of tracks originally done by the Beatles, the Byrds and the Rolling Stones, but you forgive them because their originals on this album can stand up against those classic tracks made by the heroes. And I couldn't not include something Beatles related, so I've gone with this one, Band on the Run, Paul McCartney and Wings. It's not my favourite Paul McCartney album, but it is the one I've played the most over the years. I think the production is a little too bombastic at times, and the songwriting can be very clever but unengaging. But I do have fond memories of listening to this all the time back in whenever it came out, 1974-75 time. Next up, it's the Pirates and Out of Their Skulls, and I could have gone with a punk rock record from that era. I was all in on punk, but I didn't want to choose something obvious like Nevermind the Bollocks. And this version of the Pirates, they were a 3-piece who backed Johnny Kidd for a while in the 1960s, and also at that time they recorded a solo single which I think is one of the greatest singles of the 60s, bringing together My Babe and Casting My Spell. They got back together at the height of punk, and Mick Green's distinctive guitar playing, which mixed up rhythm and lead guitar at the same time, was just a revelation when I heard it. On this debut album at least, their energy can stand comparison with any young punk band of the era. And post 1977, Mick Green remained very popular amongst other musicians, and he got to perform with Paul McCartney, Van Morrison, Brian Ferry. If you can find it on YouTube, check out Paul McCartney's appearance at the Cavern Club in 1999, when he had in his backing band Dave Gilmour, Ian Pace and also Mick Green. And the opening track, Honey Hush, has some just astonishing guitar playing from Mick Green. And moving on, we've got the Uni Boys and Do It All Next Week, and this was put out on the Curation label just last year. It was my favourite album, certainly of the last 12 months or so. They have the look and the sound of late 70s power pop down to a T. I can hear influences here from fairly obscure bands like Milk and Cookies, The Scruffs, and certainly various obscure 45s, power pop 45s from that era. And it's an utter joy from start to finish. They've now recorded the next album, and that should be coming out, I think, in the autumn. So I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, thanks for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Take care.